Hey there, hope you're doing good. Let's continue with our refactoring of Futurecam. The purpose of this series of videos is to look at a real world app, see what techniques have worked and which haven't worked at a medium scale. This is not like a giant code base, like millions of lines of code, but it's a decent code base. It was built over 3 years by multiple people. So when we look at things with the benefit of hindsight, without the pressure, because this was built in my startup where we had time pressure. So we could make the code as good as it should be. But now, with the benefit of hindsight, we are looking back and saying which of the decisions we took worked out, which of them didn't work out. So let's dive into the code. We are looking at extensions. And an extension in Swift is a way of adding things to a class. Please Google it if you don't understand it before you proceed. We are finding out which of these functions are used in only one file, in which case they can be moved to that file and made file private. Oh, it's still searching. I missed this progress bar. Okay. Session.configure. Which configure is this? Oh, session.configure is indeed being used here and here. So we can't do anything about it. Along with, if you have a keyword like this, becomes easier to search. Yes, used in. Oh no, it's used in only one file, so we can move it there. So basically, I'm trying to create some kind of structuring rather than having a global dumping ground. If you encapsulate it, it becomes better. Think about how things are put within people's houses rather than thrown in a junkyard, which would be messy. Add safely. Ah, once again, both versions of add safely input and out can be moved. Probably the input should come first. Input then output. IO, right? We don't say OI. Okay, using not here. This is the definition. This is camera dot is using tele. This is frame producer dot used tele, which again comes from camera. So it looks like it's being used only in camera. Oh, one more thing I forgot. When you copy paste, you may need self. No, actually, it's not. No. I was just saying if you copy paste from one class to another, then you need to update the self references because self refers to a different class. But we are not doing that. We are copy pasting to a different file, but still in the same extension, so it's fine. You should look at an automatic formatter. He's using ultra wide. I don't know why it's not automatically changing. There's some toggle that I turned off. One indent, right? Within the extension. Remove ultra wide. Oh, I think it's used in the other place. Remove delete. The things we copy paste. 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. This extension is much smaller. Yeah, it is used. I don't know why it has to return this way. It can be a constant rather than a computed property, a stored property. Okay. Without the compiler, I don't actually. I'll just make this change. So this is a protocol which is implemented by multiple data types like float and double. And primitive types can also implement protocols as well. And this is a generic type. It could be self, sorry, it could be float, it could be double, etc. The reason this assignment works is in Swift, this highlighted thing doesn't have any data type. It can have a data type, but it intrinsically doesn't have any data type. Moving on, roughly, yeah, a lot of process. Actually, many of them are sizes. Yeah, we are using roughly greater than is used only in CG size plus util. You should make it file private. That was the whole purpose of this refactoring. Clamp to There's an integer version of it, and there's a floating point version of it. First question is, do we need both? No. These are floating point. See, float. So this version isn't needed. Let's close this file. We'll revisit it later. This is needed in only one place. File private extension. Rounded smartly. Oh, rounded smartly uses rounded to, which is used in multiple files, controls, controllers, and time. So this will remain. But this can move to time tracker. File private extension binary floating point. Now we'll look at binary integer. Is power of 2. Don't care whether things are a power of 2. Yeah, we looked at this earlier. So this is how it is. The alternative which we discussed in an earlier video is to write it this way, rounded to int, but it's okay. It's just change for the sake of change. It's not an improvement and we don't want that change. CF dictionary, deeply mutable, should be used in only one place. Yeah, so the first thing we could do is instead of this cast, we'll do that later on. Let's not focus on changing that. File private extension. I mean, there's a very small syntactic change we can make, which is make it an extension on NX60. Because, oh no, we need to use self both as a NS dictionary, NS mutable dictionary initializer. Okay, let's make a small change here. We invoke deeply mutable. We have a NS dictionary. Right, in the future commit we can change that, but for now we'll keep it as it is. So you're creating another dictionary. You do it this way because this deeply mutable exists on NS dictionary. So when you iterate, you have to check that each of the values is a nested NS dictionary, not a CF dictionary. Both are the same. Just that if you do CF dictionary here, here you'll need to do a cast. Like at runtime, they are the same thing. Okay, that's done. CG affine transform. It's used in only one place. This will be hard to find because there'll be multiple calls. This is on a CV pixel buffer, not a CG image. This is one valid call on the CG image. So it is being used in AV capture photo or CM sample buffer. This is on the AV capture photo or CM sample buffer. Wait. Yeah, this returns M sample buffer, not a CG image. This is a UI image. This is a CI image. This is the declaration. This is a UI image.save. This is where we are calling CG image.save. So this is used twice, once in CV pixel buffer, once in AV capture photo or CM sample buffer. So we can't inline it. Here we are checking on CG point. This is a float. CG rect uses it. These are where height, extent. Origin is a point. Yeah, so it's used twice. So CG point plus util cannot be inlined. Let's look at CG rect. This should be used in multiple places. This is used once. So let's start with it's used. We'll visit this file later. Actually, let's try to finish it off instead of dot height. Where is it used? Is or should be used once here. We should remove this dot size because we have an accessor. We'll do that in the next task that we have defined. Yes, we are using both width and height here. Bounds dot height. Are we using dot center? Yes. Are we using ease landscape? Bounds. This is the underlying one. So size.ease landscape is used in multiple places, both rect and in 4-inch window. But this one seems to be used only here. We'll have to check whether each portrait is used. Yes. This is on the bonds. No, this doesn't count. On the oriented. So if we move each landscape here, each portrait will no longer be able to replace it. And this portrait is in a different file. So these two need to remain where they are. Now we are comparing rectangles but using roughly equal, not zone level. Width, height. Okay, here we are using extent. These are all sizes. Extension CG rect. Okay, we are done with CG rect. Let's move on to the next extension, which is CG size. It is used in two places. You're swapping the size. Size.is landscape is used twice. Portrait is used only in his portrait. Is as portrait used anywhere else? Or as portrait can be. Let's look at the diffs so far. Maybe we can make one commit. Rounded smartly has been inlined. AV capture session properties have been inlined. Metadata tracker, we have removed a cast. And inlined it, deeply mutable. AV capture device clamp 2 has been inlined. AV capture session bunch of stuff has been removed. Binary floating point, this has been made a stored property. Binary integer, clamp 2 and is power of 2 were not being used, so removed it. This is removed from this file. Roughly equal has been removed from CG rect. As portrait, Mode as portrait and is portrait are no longer used. Is portrait exists on both the rect and the size. The one on the rect is being used in main view. So we could move this but we don't want to separate his portrait from his landscape. Let's look at his landscape. Yeah, his landscape is used in 4-inch window. Yes, we discussed this. So if we move it there, his portrait, which is being used in main view, can't invoke it. So we are done with CG tag. Now let's look at CG size. What are the changes we have made to CG size? Oops. As portrait is never used, so we have removed it. As landscape is used in only one place. Huh? Yeah, but better to keep them. Let's commit this. So as portrait is removed, roughly greater than put here. So in the next commit, we will start looking from here. See you in the next video.